The Way of X. Just Way of X. Comic book coming out. Focusing on Nightcrawler. Focusing on what he said in issue number 7. The Crucible. Big Crucible issue of the X-Men. It plays with faith, which is a touchy topic, and which I disliked a lot from this comic. However, I think this is a great-ass comic book. Even though I had personal disagreements with the tackling of some things, like when Magneto's talking to Nightcrawler and says that something about resurrection, your God is an authority on that, isn't he? Your dusty God. I'm like, that's a tad blasphemous for my liking. And I'm Muslim. I don't follow the Christianity religion. But we didn't need that. I didn't like that part of it. I don't think there really is a place for religions in fake comic book worlds. Because if I go ahead and read a Daredevil comic about Catholics' faith and stuff like that, then yeah, it's all about the Catholic faith. I go read Thor, and there's these Asgardians, and their definition of God is something else. It's just so weird, and they got the Tree of Yggdrasil. You listen to read a Black Panther comic book, and they say that there's a panther goddess named Bast. And then you actually see it, so that's the true religion. And then you read Ms. Marvel, and it's got Islam there. And out of all of these books, then I go into my real life, and the only one that's canon is Ms. Marvel. So the comic begins with Nightcrawler. He can hear Professor X in his head, but Professor X is not wearing Cerebro. I must have missed the issue where Professor X is such a powerful telepath where he could communicate from one country to another without Cerebro. Is that common knowledge? Probably. Maybe I'm the one effing up here, but I never thought that they could do that without Cerebro. Maybe he could talk to someone who's downstairs if they're in the same mansion, but I didn't think his powers reached that level. With what's his name, with Nightcrawler, is a guy named DJ, okay? There's also Pixie, who I know, but this DJ character, he was wearing vertical stripes that are green. He's one of the Academy X students. Does he have any lines in any comic ever? I don't think so. But the writer here, Spurrier, is using people from that 2005-ish era. And I like that. Take someone old and bring him into prominence. I was searching up this character like DJ. I know he's wearing the Paradon team uniform. He wasn't on the Hellion squad, which got the most amount of love. This DJ kid wasn't even in, the 198, that book. He's nowhere here. Where's DJ? He doesn't exist. But he exists, and we're giving him, I guess, a name. I'm not sure exactly what his powers are, but we're getting more from him. Cool. Amongst his peers, Pixie, they're speaking to her as if, what, you didn't die yet? Everybody dies. You got to do it. So the way that she dies is to create fear or maybe change the minds of these bad guys. Like, oh my god, look what this terrible thing that just happened. I don't want to become this way. So that's the way she used her one-up. And these mutants are dying left, right, and center. And I always tell you guys that death is a joke in the X-Men comics. I'm going to compliment Death, that they did not wait for the final page to make me go, oh no, Pixie is dead. It's very self-aware. It's not like when Kate died. It's not like when Professor X died. And it's not like anytime that Kid Omega dies on the final page and Wolverine's cut in half. Oh no. It happened in the middle of a comic. Actually, in the beginning. Boom. It says. So, yeah, it's different. I have a theory which I don't think I've spoken out, but I should do it now so that when I'm right I look smart. And I've been thinking this for a year now. Maybe every mutant will die in Krakoa, and that's for a storyline purpose. Like, Jonathan Hickman wrote his House of X, and he said, guys, I'm going to wrap up my story of this whole Krakoan era of X-Men. Writers, individually, make sure every mutant dies one time in your story. Thanks, I'm going to need it for later on. And there's some philosophical questions in here that Nightcrawler is asking about what actually happens, stuff about the soul, those kind of questions start getting addressed here by Spurrier. So much happens here that it's not like the way that I treat X-Force, Marauders, New Mutants, Excalibur, Hellions, Cable. I don't know. I ran out of breath, but I also ran out of names. There's Fallen Angels, which was a thing. There's one more that I'm just not remembering. X Factor and Children of the Atom. It's not like those where I feel like, what the hell is going on here? How is this gone astray from Jonathan Hickman's plan? It's not his vision. It's not like that. I feel more like the Chip Zdarsky Fantastic Four X-Men when I read this, where I feel like it is directly involved with what happened in House of X and follows it. So we're back at the HQ, and Magneto gives a little bit of a sermon for these guys. The artists in here, Bob Quinn, did a good job. They got all of the Magneto merchandise and memories and stuff. Weird. A couple of the white pages in here were, I wouldn't say useless, but useless. Like this one here. Yep, I know what happened in the very first X-Men. Thanks. Same artwork too, right? So does Jack Kirby's family get paid? We read the credit page. Is Jack Kirby in the credit page? Yeah, he is, isn't he? He's always in the credit. No, it doesn't say the X-Men were created by Stan Lee Jack Kirby, does it? I don't see it. I don't see it. So no money for Kirby. You guys remember in the Avengers Endgame red carpet when Kirby's son was there and they asked, it was Marvel host, right? So Lorraine, I think, asked, yo, what do you think about this? He's like, I'm really interested in seeing the Eternals, see what they do with that. And that hasn't been announced yet. That doesn't get announced until Comic-Con. And that happened in April, you know? So for 2 months, I'm like, you wasn't supposed to say that. They got the microphone away from him. They didn't snatch it or nothing, but they were done asking him questions. Mr. Kirby's son. So I touched on that. The way that Magneto reminds Nightcrawler, you're German, buddy. And there's really nothing you can say to Magneto after that. Next page, let me get my notes up since I took them for a reason. You ever wonder who created the Krakoan drugs? Well, it's Dr. Nemesis. Who else? Kind of makes the most amount of sense. It's very logical that he would create these drugs, and I never really cared who did, but he did. Here's this dude, or it's a girl, and she's asking Nightcrawler, I want you for something. She wants him to be the Crucible killer, what Apocalypse used to be. And no, taking up that position is Magneto in this comic book. Same kind of, character. It's not going to be Storm or one of the heroes that we love. It'll be one of those gray Jedis of the Krakoan era. Exodus is over here giving his speech. I love the way that they talk about Wanda. I love the slang that was in this comic. The way that they say things like, don't be such a Wanda. That's very, very, its own culture thing. I like the insults like that. Instead of calling it Krakoa, they called it crack. That was kind of cool. They did take it too far, though. Like, worrying is totally sapien. I don't know about that one. They did go a little too far, but yeah, it's got its own little culture. Dr. Nemesis is in charge of everything, as you can see on the white page there. Except for they don't have anyone in charge of ethics, was it? And that's hilarious that there's no law or ethics supervisor. That was a well thought out white page. Get credit for these white pages, man. Even though they're not colored or nothing and they're not artwork, I'll give you credit if it furthers what we're going for with Dr. Nemesis's character. And he's having his little philosophical stuff about the Dunbar number. Back to the fight. Crucible is happening. Nightcrawler steps in. The Crucible is completed, and Nightcrawler feels stupid because, all this stuff about death. It seems wrong, but I got no comeback for it. It's weird. Again with my religion thing. Nightcrawler died. Amazing X-Men happened. Go read Amazing X-Men issue number 1. He's in heaven. Ed McGuinness draws white cloudy places. He's in a paradise. Some of the mutants even go and get him a couple issues later. He's in heaven. So why does he have these questions? He already died. And I know, after Messiah Second Coming, actually, he dies in that event. Heaven for a long time, watching what's happening. So just because he died in House of X issue 4, it doesn't mean that he forgot about heaven. You get it? It's so weird. So I hope that gets addressed, because the way that Cy Spurrier has been writing the comic has pleased me. So I don't want to dismiss him as like a nothing writer who's stupid and doesn't know what he's talking about. The strongest individuals simply invent rituals of their own. Fundamentally disagree with that. It's like also Cy Spurrier's commentary on what he believes in faith, I think. I think that's what Cy Spurrier was going for there. And I've read it in Donny Cates' stuff, the way he talks about faith in the first Guardians of the Galaxy issue. One of those early issues. I heard him say something. I'm like, okay, I guess that's what you believe about in God. It was issue 7, actually. It was the second arc of his story with Quill and Quill's dad. In that issue, I got to see what Donny Cates thought about faith. Doesn't work for me. Again, I have no room in faith in any comic books. I'm never going to look at a comic book the way that they handle religion and come off like I need it either. Like, I'll never be looking at a Ms. Marvel comic and saying, yes, I feel represented. I don't need it in here. I wonder what you guys all think. This diverse, YouTube viewership. What do you guys think about faith? So, would you be for it if it was doing your religion right? Would you be like, oh, this is great news, now more people will know about it? Is that how you feel, maybe? I guess that could be a positive take. But I don't need it. And if it is used, of course I would love for it to be used correctly. But I don't care. I don't care enough to advocate for it. Let's see here. Did I talk about everything? Oh, and then it ends with Blindfold, who died in Matthew Rosenberg's Uncanny X-Men. Might have been issue number 10 or 11. In that issue, Blindfold dies because Blindfold saw something coming that was so crazy that she needs to run from it. And the people all book long were calling it... Where's the word? They called it Patchwork. The Patchwork Man. Who the hell is he? We thought Pixie saw him when she was resurrected, but who's this Patchwork guy? Legion. Final page. It's Legion. I've never liked this character, but why else would Professor X be thinking about him? Kids be thinking about him? It's this guy. Omega leveled and all that. And remember that Hickman wrote his little Omega level stuff. Of course we know, and if you've been watching my channel, Franklin Richards is an Omega level mutant. Dan Slott is fucking idiotic for making him not an Omega level mutant in the middle of his Fantastic Four run. He has every right to change a character in the Fantastic Four world. That includes Franklin. However, when Hickman starts something a whole year prior, you have no right to be changing it because he's in the middle of being used for something. That's how I see things, and I feel very strongly about that. I respect everyone's permissions to play with the toys in their toy box, but it was being used by somebody, so now you're just disrespecting whatever story Hickman had planned. At what cost though? Like, what happened in the FF that Dan Slott needed to do that to fucking Franklin Richards to do that to Hickman's story? Nothing. Like, I don't even see the reason to unmutantify him. But there you go. Dan Slott unmutanted him. Ugh. Very annoying. But yeah, an Omega level mutant is being used over here. Aside from the blasphemy and the whole white page talking about preamble and brain farts and the way that the writer, I think, sees religion. Aside from that, this was an interesting story, which I wasn't sure I'd get issue number 2. I actually didn't even subscribe to this. It's not on my pull list. This was an off-the-shelf purchase. But this converted me, and I see the light. Way of X is actually a good comic book. Chillmonger, subscribe to the channel for good stuff. Peace out.